Welcome to another episode of Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting, relic, and treasure hunting. You can also call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions that you might have. Relics Radio is also now syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are tuned in to Relics Radio again this week. I want to welcome all of our live listeners that are tuned in on the Spreaker app. Also want to welcome all of our syndicated listeners that are listening to the show through the Cutting Edge Radio Network. And we want to reach out and thank all of our listeners that will catch the archive show either on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, anywhere that there are podcasts, you're going to find Relics Radio. We are world famous and we are everywhere. Before we get into tonight's show, though, I do want to take a moment and remind everybody that we're having a giveaway in the month of June. Note to Micro has been good enough to donate a amphibio metal detector to Murray Branch Outdoors to give away here on the show sometime in the month of June. And just before showtime, I checked on the Relics Radio Facebook group page, and we've got 75 people that are entered into the contest. Now, here's what you have to do. Go to the Relics Radio Facebook group page, and if you're not a member, ask to become a member of that. And then at the very top, you will see the contest post. I've got it pinned to the top, so it will always be there. And you go in there and say something about the amphibia, what you like about it. Now, if you don't know anything about it, say, I don't know anything about that detector, but I sure do want to win it. One or two people have done that, and that's good enough. I'll give you a number, and then sometime in June, now I'm not going to tell you, it may be the first week of June, the second week, the third week, or the last week. Live on the show, we're going to draw a number. You've got to be listening live, and you've got 3 minutes to either call into the show and say, I'm here, or you can reach out to us on chat and say, I'm here. Now, some people have asked, well, I work a job and I'm not able to listen live. Then you better get your wife or your husband or some family member to listen for you. We will allow that. And then they will say, I represent him, I represent her. And so that will work. And so go and check it out. And by the way, when you go to Relics Radio, there is a button there that you can push that says follow. Please follow us. You will get notifications every time that we go live. Now, all the time, it's at 8 o'clock Eastern time on Thursday. But we do some live remote shows. We've got one at Chattanooga. We had one at Charleston. We're going to have one in Ohio. And we've got several shows that we do out on the road. And if you follow us, you'll be aware. You'll get an email for all of that. But like I say, got a great show tonight, and I'm running solo tonight. Jeff is down in Florida on vacation again, and Mark Hoover is in the air again and gone. He's in Idaho. He's up there with Spud Digger and them and at Diamondville and going to be hunting there. So I'm going to have to kind of watch the chat the best that I can and see what's going on there, but I may miss something. And I had one or two of our guests here to to do the same thing, to kind of watch it and make sure that we don't miss anything. But got a great show lined up tonight. If you saw any of the promos that I put out, it is the Virginia History Detectors. And they have one of the most amazing hoards of old coins that you've ever heard of. But to start with, let's find out who they are. And my contact in all of this has been Scott Miller. And I'm going to start with you, Scott. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Lloyd, I appreciate it. Thanks for having us on here.
I appreciate you guys being on. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been detecting and how you got into the hobby.
Well, I'll tell you, not too long, considering some of these old timers around here. 10 years or so. Just kind of in background. Growing up, I had an uncle, Little John Dugan. So if you're in Virginia, you might know that name. But he was very much into relic hunting and Civil War history, and I went with him a few times in my childhood and got interested in it at that point, and then a little bit later in life, had a property that was part of a battlefield our house was on, and the Battle of Beaver Dam Creek. And so I decided, I'm going to get a detector and see what I can find, and found a few things out there, and I was hooked ever since. So that's sort of what got me started into the hobby.
Now, how did you hook up with these guys, Virginia History Detectors? How'd you manage that?
Boy, so there's a forum out there. I guess I can say the name, Friendly Metal Detecting Forum, that I met up with Mike and yourself as well about the same time, and he invited me out to go, and so we went on a couple of hunts together, and met Trevor through the same forum, actually, about the same time, maybe a year or so after. And we went out on a few hunts, and later on met up with Miles through one of the Facebook groups, and we went on a few hunts. And then sort of as we were kind of going through all this, we're like, hey, we're all like-minded individuals. Let's sort of kind of get together. And so we sort of formed a group. We all got along real well, and you in this hobby, sometimes you got to watch who you hunt with, but these are all good guys, and we sort of vetted ourselves through the process of hunting together, and so we've been, the rest is Virginia history, if you will.
It sounds like it. Yeah, and I remember you and Mike on the Friendly Metal Detecting Forum, and I was on that and active for a while. And you and I have talked. Missouri Bob was on there, and Chip 61 was on there, and we were all Civil War relic guys, and there was only a handful of us. Most everybody was either after coins or rings. And then I got into finding colonial stuff, and really that's my bread and butter. I'd rather do that than anything. And there were even fewer of them, on there. And I just kind of got disillusioned with it, and started picking up a few YouTube channels, and saw Stealth Diggers and got acquainted with Keebs, and they were finding flat buttons. And I thought, well, here's where I need to be, is over on YouTube. So I just picked up and moved and put everything, and that's digging with 7 history right there, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Rest of it is history. And for those of you that don't know, the next fellow that I'm fixing to bring up is Mike Holbrook, Digging with the Wolf. And Mike and I got acquainted on the Friendly Metal Detecting Forum as well. But those of you that don't know, Mike just came out of surgery. He is in the hospital bed right now, but he was adamant that he was going to be on the show. How you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm doing okay. Give me just a second, Lloyd. I got the nurses in here working me up and checking on my tubes.
Okay, that's good enough. I'll just move on over just a little bit and go to Miles and talk to Miles just a little bit. And how'd you get into to all of this, Miles?
Well, I would say maybe early 2015, I found the hobby on YouTube, just randomly by chance, watching videos of guys digging up World War II stuff over in Europe. And then I found some channels that were U.S. based. And I was like, I live in a good area. I could probably, find stuff. And I just ordered a metal detector, and I've been hooked ever since my first hunt. And that was probably late 2015 when I actually started metal detecting.
Yeah. What are you swinging? What kind of machine are you using now?
For about 3 years, I hunted with a Garrett Ace 400. I've just recently upgraded within the past few months to a Garrett AT Max, and I absolutely love this machine.
I'll tell you what, I love the Garrett machines too, and I stayed with the AT Pro. I've tried the Gold. The frequency is different than the AT Pro. AT Pro is 15 and the Gold is 17, and I don't know on the Max. But
the Garrett, the Max, I think, is 13.6.
Okay, so it's different again. But I know people that's got the Max, and I've hunted with them, and they do an amazing job. But I tell you what I love about them, and you may agree or disagree, I love scouting with them because the very minute that you get into the iron debris field. Because,
oh, yes.
And how you set up your Max? How are you running it?
It depends on where I'm hunting. Like if I'm hunting a house yard, I usually go Pro Zero, and I set my iron disc at about 35, which some people think that's a little high. But all that iron audio just gives me a headache. If I'm hunting on a site where it's a good idea to dig your iron targets, especially a Civil War site, then I'll typically not have any discrimination at all.
Yeah,
I'll just let it go wide open. I feel like I get a little bit more depth that way, and I like to hear everything.
Well, I run my AT Pro, and Jeff does too. I run it in Pro Zero, and then we don't run iron audio. We run iron disc, but we put it iron disc at 0 so you hear everything. But those nails and that iron is just light grunts in the back, and the signals will pop out. And I tell you something that happened to me. That made me a believer in running that iron disc at 0. I had a cut real ring in at 34-35, and I thought it was going to be a cuff button because I've had a few cuff buttons that ring up real low like that. And I dug that booger up, and it was cut real. So that's why we run ours at Pro Zero. And how'd you get hooked up with these guys?
I met Mike and Trevor through Scott. I met Scott first. We hunted a few times together, and, we just got along great. We love hunting with each other. And, I get along with Trevor and Mike great. And, it was kind of like an instant, we were just all instantly friends. We love hunting together.
Yeah. And I don't know, Mike, have you run all the nurses out yet?
Not yet. Well, just a few more minutes.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll catch you after the break, and I'll keep talking with Scott and Miles for just a little bit, and I'm holding Trevor.
Okay.
And Mike, if you don't care, if you'll go ahead and mute your phone until we get you back on.
I got it.
Okay. And we're going to hold Trevor until the last one because Trevor is actually the one that got into this big Hoard and everything, but we're going to get back to him. Let me ask Scott and Miles, either one, who is the research guy for you folks?
Oh, boy. It depends what site you're looking at. Trevor's good at the old home sites. He's really got it down. I think between us all, we're sort of all looking at old home sites. Trevor spent a lot of time researching and mapping out places, and he can walk you right to it, basically. So out of all of us, it depends on the site, depends on the area. We're all in Central Virginia, but we're all in sort of different areas. So it sort of depends on, the location we're looking at. We're all researchers, but yeah, I mean, that's a hard question to, to pinpoint down to.
It is, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we need to take a short break, and we'll be right back. T-shirts are a perfect way to get your brand recognized, whether you're talking about a business, a club, a sports team, your YouTube channel, or whatever. But you may have asked, where can I get quality, affordable shirts on demand? Well, I'm glad you asked. Relics Radio uses DetectTees.com for all of our T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and hoodies. That's DetectTees.com. Ken and Mark Guthrie make quality shirts that last, they ship quick, and best of all, they're affordable. So if you need customized apparel, then go to DetectTees.com and be sure and tell them that Relics Radio sent you. And I tell you guys, those fellows, Ken and Mark Guthrie over at Detect Tees, they're great guys. They make great shirts and they have great prices. And it's not just for metal detecting. If you've got kids right now that are involved in summer sports, those teams need uniform T-shirts, check out Detect Tees. You parents need T-shirts to support those youngins, check out DetectTees.com. And they will give you bulk prices, too. If you order more than 1 or 5 or 10 or what have you, they're going to give you a special deal. And if you mention that you heard it on Relics Radio, they're going to give you the special deal that we always have with them. And Mike, I guess that you can hear me, but if you get to where you can talk, just jump back in here.
I'm back.
Oh,
I am back.
Oh, good. How are you doing after your surgery?
I'm doing okay. In recovery right now, and like I said, I got tons of tubes coming out everywhere.
And you went through back surgery, is that correct?
That's right. It's my second back surgery, so I had to do a different fusion this time. So take some disc out and put some rods and screws in.
Oh, man. How long is it going to be now before you're going to be able to be up and get back out and dig?
They said I should be able to return to work in about 4 to 6 weeks, so I'm jumping back in as soon as possible.
I know you. I know that you will. And you and I met on Friendly Metal Detecting Forum as well as me and Scott, didn't we?
That's right. Yep.
And I remember I was hunting a Civil War site here that's pretty close to the house. And back then, I wasn't doing any YouTube stuff at all. And I found a Trime and posted that on there. And I can't remember if you messaged me or what. But I know that we talked either through the forum or through a private message or something. And you were talking about, where was it at? How deep was it? What did the signal sound like? You were saying, man, I want to find one of those, And then what was it? Was it the next day or a day or two after that you found the two that you found?
Yep, and I think it might have even been the next day. It was, I took my little boy, he's 8 years old now, I took him digging with me, and it was right when I got the XP Deus, and got a funny little double bleep signal, and there was 2 trons in the same hole.
Yeah, one of them was a silver.
One was actually, one was a silver, and then one was a 3-cent nickel. I think it was 18. The silver was 1851 or 1853, and then the 3-cent nickel was 1865.
Yeah, and then you immediately hollered back at me and you said, we were just talking about this. We're in the twilight zone here or something.
That's right. You're my good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
You're my good luck charm.
And that was at an old church, wasn't it?
That's right. It was era 1736.
Yeah. And those weren't deep, were they?
No, they were maybe 6 inches plus. And the thing about that old church is, I guess it burned down at some point. So there's, it's littered with iron and nails and just all kinds of junk like that. So it's hard to get any kind of signal. But this was a nice double beep signal. So, got the one out of the hole and checked the hole again. And there was another one. And then a few feet away was a nice little eagle eye cuff button.
I remember that too. I sure do. And your little boy was there with you. I remember that like that was yesterday, and I know that's been 5 or 6 years ago. When that happened, and then it wasn't long after that. Of course, me and you developed this strange relationship together. Because we're talking about
That's
trimes, right. And you go out and you find a trime. And then you posted a find, and tell everybody what that find was that you posted that you found there in Virginia.
So not too far away from the church, just a few miles down the road. Again, my little boy was with me, and this place, I've had permission to hunt this place since maybe 2010, from when I first moved to Virginia. This was the first permission I got from door knocking, and I got this funny signal right under this old cedar tree, and it ended up, I thought it was a belt buckle, because it ended up coming out, in the oval shape, brass plate,
Yep.
And flipped that thing over and had somebody's name on it. So I could tell it was either a belt buckle or missing the feet on the back, or either a trunk plate. And you want to tell everybody what that name was on there?
Now, here's the deal.
I'm sure what to say.
Here's the deal. Mike knew me as 7, and that's all that he knew. And he posted this thing up, and the name on that was William Milam. And so I hollered at him, and I wanted to know where he found it. And I don't remember what research and everything that I did, but my great-great-grandfather was William Milam, and he was from Kentucky here, but he was in Virginia and would have been in Virginia at that time. Now, I don't know if it belonged to my great-great-grandfather. There's no way that you would ever be able to determine that. But I just thought the coincidence of everything that happened between you and I was just, well, it's Twilight Zone. What else can you say?
It is definitely unreal.
It is. And you and I have had a bond ever since. Never have had a chance to meet you. I've been to digging in Virginia 3 times, but we've never had a chance to get hooked up together. I hope that changes one of these days after you get up and going and back out hunting. Let me ask you something though. Are you still using that Deus? Is that your primary machine now?
It is. I go back and forth between the Deus, and I like to use the 9-inch low-frequency coil. That's I've tried the 11 before, but the 9 seems to be the sweet spot for me, especially in the old home sites and stuff that I hunt. It just picks right through the iron targets and the trash. But I go back and forth between that because old habits are hard to break for me. So I still swing my old trusty T2 LTD. I love that thing.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had that or if you had the F75. I couldn't remember, but so
the F75 was the first big boy machine I got after I got into relic hunting. My first machine was the F2, and I got a feel for that. And then when I got into it hardcore, then that's when I got the F75 and. Then I decided I wanted to try the T2 and the HE Pro, and I've gone back and forth between a few machines, but the T2 and the Deus, that's my sweet spot combo right there, Lloyd.
I hunt mainly with a GPX now, and of course you can't hunt old house sites with it. If I hit an old house site, of course I've got a Equinox. And I like it. It has its place, but I still go back to my AT Pro on scouting and everything because I can find that debris field easier with it because I know that machine. I bought one of those whenever they first came out and was hunting with that. And I also had a Mind Lab CTX and E-track, I think, whenever I was on the metal detecting forum with you guys, probably using that CTX more than anything. But I eventually sold it. I didn't like it as a relic machine, but you're evidently doing well with that Deus, though, in relics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the second one that I've had. I got one and then ended up selling it, and then I couldn't stay away, so I ended up having to go get another one.
Yeah, that's the way it is. And, you can... Every one of them is different. I mean, and I'm a firm believer that when you hunt a site, if you take a different detector back in and hunt it, you're going to find something that the others didn't find, because there's just a little difference between every one of them. And it's not to say that, one of them is not a good machine, because they all have their strengths. And to tell you the truth, I wish I had. That's right. Yeah. I wish I had.
I think the best machine is the one that you were the most comfortable with, that you learned, that you know how to speak its language, so that way you know exactly what it's telling you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a $100 machine or an $1,800 machine. As long as you know what it's telling you, that's going to be the best machine.
Yeah. And what I like about the CTX is that thing is crazy deep. I mean, I had to get a bigger shovel. I need a backhoe sometimes, because it is unbelievable what you hear with that machine that you just don't hear with anything else. And it's frustrating sometimes whenever you dig a 22 bullet that was 12 inches deep, but it's pretty nice, whenever you dig a 3-ringer that's 2 foot deep, that there's no way a VLF was going to hear that. And I really like it, and been using it, started back using it quite a bit right before DIV, just kind of, tuning up for DIV, and then got back from DIV, and I hadn't put it down. Of course, I am hunting Civil War sites that don't have a lot of iron in them. I couldn't hunt an Ohio site or anything with what I've got there, but it's a great machine, and from what I hear, that Deus is great relic machine.
That's right. It's so versatile. You can set it up for your different sites, and I set mine up to mimic just the way that my T2 sounds. I like to run it in 2 tones, wide open, just like the T2 in boost mode.
I didn't know.
So it's an easy transition.
But Keebs with Stealth Diggers, good friend of mine, and we've had him on the show a couple of times, and I was talking about the sounds that I liked on the AT Pro and everything. He said, Loy, you can take the Deus and make it sound like any machine that you want to. And I wasn't aware of that. I probably need to get me one of them. Won't you talk to my wife and see if that's okay?
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
There's a program that Scott and I, we kind of developed a little program not too long ago, and we named it Relic Wolf. And it seems to be, it makes the targets jump out of the ground right into your pouch. But there's I've started using this other program. It's called Gary's Ultimate program. And if you learn how to set that thing up, there's nothing quite like it.
I'm going to have to get one, because I do like to tinker with machines. And that's one thing about the AT Pro. It's kind of a turn on and go. You can't adjust all that much. Even the Equinox, you can't adjust a whole lot. Now, the CTX, I could adjust more, but the Deus, it's just unlimited what you can adjust on that, and that's what a lot of people shy away from, isn't it?
That's right. Some people just like a turn on and go, kind of an easy, simplified machine, and some people like to be able to tweak it to, their comfort zone.
Yeah. And Woody Jones was asking if you could share the Wolf program. He said he could for a price. He's trying to pay for surgery right now.
That's right. Maybe we can work out a bargain.
If you,
I'd be happy to post it up.
Okay, why don't you do that on the Relics Radio Facebook group page? Because I know that these Deus users, they like to see those different programs, and when you get up and back on your feet and everything, if if you will do that. But we need to take another break right now, and when we come back, we're going to bring Trevor Scott in. If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Mine Lab, Garrett, XP-DES, and macro detectors and supplies, and also carries many aftermarket items. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. Tim not only sells detectors, he uses them, and so he can answer any question that you might have. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll take your old detector in on trade when you decide to upgrade. So give Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 or visit his website at www.murraybranchoutdoors.com, and be sure and tell him Relics Radio sent you. And just a reminder, everybody, Murray Branch Outdoors, in association with Not to Macro, is giving away an Amphibio. Go to the Relics Radio Facebook group page. Right at the very top of the page, I have pinned that contest post. All you have to do is make a comment, some kind of comment about the Amphibio. I will give you a number sometime in the month of June, live on this show. We're going to draw one of those numbers. We will call that out live on the show, and you'll have 3 minutes to either call in, have a family member call in if you're working, or reach out to us on chat live, and you could have one of these Amphibios right there in your hand. And so we're going to turn the show over now to Trevor Scott. Welcome to the show, Trevor.
Thanks so much for having me here and having us all on tonight.
Yeah, and you're kind of the spotlight of this show here tonight, because you're the one that was lucky enough to get into all of this digging and all of these coins and everything. But before you get into that, I've talked to the other guys, and I'm going to let them sit back a little bit. We'll bring them in as we can and add to the comments and everything that you have about this. But tell us how long you've been detecting, what kind of machine you're using, and how you got started in the hobby.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think I really got into it about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm not ashamed to admit that some of the more popular metal detecting and digging shows that sort of came out on TV during that time frame, I got into them with my sons. I got 2 boys. They're 10 and 13 now. And they were interested in it, and we liked watching those shows together. And, I was also inspired. My late father's had a really good friend who had been digging for, 40-plus years. He was from around Fredericksburg and, grew up right around the wilderness and had a lot of really great artifacts. And, I figured, let's give this a shot. And so I bought him a little Bounty Hunter Jr., which is basically just a machine that beeps over any type of metal. No discrimination or anything. And we messed around with it a little bit. And, I said, this is kind of fun. And, so I went to a local metal detector store, and I didn't want to invest too much, so I got the Fisher F2, and I said, I'll just use this, and if this is something that's really fun and I like doing, then I'll upgrade. And then maybe 2 weeks later, I ended up with an AT Pro in my hand. So I just just took to the hobby. It's a lot of fun, I like to do a lot of fishing too, and it's kind of like fishing in that, you can play your cards right and hope for the best, but you never know, if you're going to, get the big catch at the end of the day or what you're going to catch. So it's just a lot of fun to me. And right now I'm using Macro Cruiser. So I had the AT Pro. I used that for a couple of years, and then switched to the DES about around the time that I think Scott switched to the DES. And we were hanging out and using those together. And then I took about a year off or so to do some personal stuff and take care of some other things. And then once I got back into it, I tried out the Macro, the Red Racer. And for some reason, I just really, really clicked with that machine and was going back to places I had hunted before and actually finding a lot more stuff there. You know, part of that was probably just due to experience, but I also attribute it to just, like Mike was saying earlier, just getting comfortable with whatever machine you've got in your hands and getting really good with it. So I've still got the Red Racer, and then I've got the Macro Cruiser that came out a year or two ago, and I'm using that pretty regularly now. And
what coil of choice, size coil, do you like? Is it different depending on the size you're hunting?
I've had a lot of experience with the really good experience with the little 5-inch coil around house sites on the Red Racer. I haven't picked one up yet for the Cruiser. I've just been using the stock 11-inch coil, but that's on my list of things to do. And I'll just save all those things, you know, that you can find with the 5-inch that you can't find with the 11-inch for a later date, I guess.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people try to sell those smaller coils short because they think that they're losing a lot of depth. Now, obviously, I do believe that you lose a little bit of depth as you go down on coil size, but you also have great separation whenever you've got a small coil. Now, you got into a hunt here recently, and on that first day, tell us about the site. Tell us what machine you were using, what coil you were using, how you had everything set up, what your whole mindset was just going into that hunt.
Sure. So this site is just what I would call a nondescript old, Central Virginia house site. It's just it's a dot on a map, with a house there that I was able to locate. So going into it, I knew that some people had been there before, was aware of that ahead of time, and that was no big deal. Usually, when you hear something like that, you're just like, well, let's, go there, see what we can do, see how good they were, see if they left anything behind. And my first trip there was a pretty good hunt. Found a handful of buttons. I think I didn't have time there, but I do remember finding a bunch of buttons and then, just miscellaneous kind of household items, pieces of oil lamps and stuff like that, just laying around where, I thought the main house structure was. There's a number of different structures that are there, and it's a pretty, good sized area. So, this was a good hunt, but at the same time, I had another permission nearby that was, dating to it's got a house from the late 1700s still standing on it, and it's really big, and I wanted to get in there, sort of knowing that, they don't plant there, but the grass does grow really tall in the spring and summer, and I wanted to spend some time over there. So it was kind of a toss-up where I would go for the next couple of weekends, but did go back. I invited the guys. We went another time, and everybody found a little bit of something. A handful of buttons. I did find a nice pewter bridle rosette there, and then I found a really pretty old big colonial coat button. So I knew that the site was going back, at least late 1700s. So that gave me promise because I'm kind of like you in that, or learning about you, in that I like to train. My goal is to find the oldest things that are in the areas that I hunt at. Really like finding the old colonial stuff. There's not too much of it around where I'm at, but there's a fair amount. So, anyways, after those two initial hunts, I went back by myself. I think it was one Saturday morning, and I was, I had hunted, all these different areas around the house, trying to get into pockets where no one had been before. And then I just said, well, I'm just going to go really slow up along this house and just grind it out, square foot by square foot type of thing. And I managed to find like a ring, brass plated ring, wedding band type of thing. And then I found a drawer pull, and then, I found an iron, and then a button and a couple other things. And then I got, up onto, there's almost like a rise up over, I'd say like the lowest layer of bricks in the foundation are still there. So it's like taking a step up onto an elevated, pad of dirt, if you will. And I realized, I'm right inside of the house now. And I go and I walk the full perimeter of that little, basically the last little bit of wall that's standing there. And then I realized, there's a brick pile here, brick pile there. Those were the chimneys. Started looking around, and, I didn't have a lot of hopes for that area, given that, there's still signs that someone had been digging there within the last year. But I did get a really good signal. It was a very loud signal. It sounded like a mason jar lid. So almost, too big to be something good. But it was a very strong signal. And, I went and I started digging it, and I found like 7 or 8 pennies, really close to the surface, like 2-3 inches down. And then, I moved away some more dirt, and I could see, a dozen and a half more pennies in there. And I just kind of stopped and said, this is about to get real interesting right here. At that point, I knew that it wasn't just a pocket spill, and that we were looking at, definitely a spot where someone had buried some number of coins in the ground, and I had no idea what they were going to be, what was going to be in there, or how many were going to be in there. So I pretty much, just stopped in my tracks right there and said, we got to turn on the camera. We got to document this. We got to get this, on video, put it on YouTube, on our channel. And so that's what I did. And I started digging, relatively slowly at first. And then, it was like every time I reached my hand into the hole, I was coming out with a fistful of wheat pennies. This went on and on and on for over 20 minutes, to where I just had this huge pile of wheat pennies. But the whole time I just had it in my mind that, you just got to get deeper. There's going to be silver down there underneath these guys, or who knows what. So, it was really exciting pulling them out. I wish it was, something other than a pile of wheats, but I'll tell you what, I'll dig, a pile of wheat pennies any day like that. It was just a very, very exhilarating experience to uncover something like that. It's kind of, every time we go out, that's sort of the dream. Hey, I'm going to find, a hole where somebody buried a whole bunch of coins, and it actually happened to me that day. So I was very fortunate and very, very thankful for that. Yeah,
and, we all dream about that. We all dream that one day, one signal is going to change our life. We're going to dig into a hole there, and there's just going to be multiple coins in there. How many wheats did you finally dig out of that one hole?
Well, at first, I brought them home, and I just put them on a scale and tried to factor, the math, and didn't feel like counting them out by hand, just being lazy. But later on, I did count them out by hand. I came up with 998. And I'll tell you, 998 pennies fits in a quart-sized mason jar perfectly up to the brim.
And do you think that they probably buried that in a mason jar at one time, and then the mason jar, did you find any evidence of glass or a lid?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that there's no evidence whatsoever of a container. Now, there was a lot of plaster in the hole. The wheat pennies themselves ranged from 1909, first year, all the way to 1935. So that would indicate that somebody buried this hoard of wheat pennies in the year 1935. There weren't that many 1935s in there, so let's just say, late 1935 or something like that.
Right.
So 1935 is right in the dead middle of the Great Depression, and $10 back then, adjusted for inflation from 1935 to 2019, that's about $180 today.
Wow.
I mean, that would have been, during the Great Depression. That's a good size, chunk of change.
That was a lot of money. It was a time when people didn't have any money. Sure didn't. Hey, we're going to have to take a break here and go to another commercial. But when we come back, it gets even better. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on Relics Radio. And by the way, guys, I am now the producer of American Digger's Relic Roundup, along with the legend Butch Holcomb and Jeff Lubert on Monday night at 9 o'clock. And we're currently doing a writer spotlight. We are spotlighting authors of the magazine, and this coming Monday, it's going to be Scott Duncan, an amazing Spanish-American War relic that he found and did an absolutely amazing story. If you haven't read that, get your copy of American Digger today and read that article, and be sure and tune in this next Monday night as Scott tells us even more details about that find. And Scott, Trevor, that was the first hunt that you had there, but you come back to that site, didn't you?
Yeah. So with the coins, those wheats ending in 1935, and then being buried like that, and then realizing it's a significant chunk of change for anyone in 1935. I started thinking, I really need to get back there because there could be more stuff buried, underneath the house somewhere. Maybe they just buried it all in one place. So I couldn't get out there for a few weeks, and I think I might have hunted somewhere else in between, but I finally did get back there about 3 weeks later. And, I had it in my mind, I'm just going to hunt inside the house because obviously I've proven there's been, some valuables that have been buried underneath this house. I just started gridding, back and forth, two different directions. And then, I started, right around where the wheat hole was. And then I ended up doing that about two and a half times. And then I just said to myself, there's so many signals in here. There's so much iron. There's so much just junk that the only way I'm going to be able to find anything in here is if I, just start digging anything that doesn't sound like direct iron. So I went back over to the one corner of the house where I'd found the wheat penny hoard, and I just said, I'm just going to listen all around here, and anything that doesn't sound like straight iron, I'm just going to start digging. So started digging a couple, test holes around it, and I think, it seemed like it was my first, shovel full of dirt, but I'd probably dig in a couple of test holes around it, but eventually, I'd say maybe like 4.5 feet from the hole where the wheat pennies were. And I had opened that up that day to make sure that, there was nothing left. And I found a few more, on the surface and all the tailings and stuff that I dug out previously. But I sunk that shovel, into the dirt, and I'll never forget when I pulled it out. and, old coins, much older than the wheat pennies, just started pouring off the shovel, and I just stood there dumbfounded, looking down, looking at this large cent, staring up at me, and then realizing there were 7, 8, 9 more coins that had just come out of the ground. And it's wild. I mean, I think that they were maybe 8 inches down, 7, 8 inches down. I don't even really remember. I never really measured, but they weren't all that deep, but there was so much in the ground that, I wasn't really getting a solid coin signal, or a solid, copper signal, if you will, from these coins that were in the ground. And, obviously it's where I would have started looking, given that they were so close in proximity to where the wheat penny hoard was. So then I just, froze in my tracks, like this can't be happening. I can't be finding another, coin hoard back to back at the same site like this. But it was real. It was really happening. So ran back to the truck. I'd left my phone in there to record the whole experience and digging it all out. And got back in there, and I recorded every coin coming out of there. And I just kept opening up the hole, looking for more. And I think I did a pretty good job getting the vast majority of it out. And I came home, and I opened up my backpack, and there was a plastic bag in there, and it had just a huge pile of old coins in there. It was all 2 cents, large cents, and I kept calling them when I was pulling them out of the ground. I didn't realize that they were Flying Eagles at the time. I thought they were all, for some reason, just the fat Indianhead pennies. And I wasn't taking the time to stop and, scrape some dirt off of them and look through them. So they were all, Flying Eagle pennies that were in there. I didn't find any Indians in there. It was just the large cents, the 2 cents, and then the Flying Eagles. So I pulled this plastic shopping bag out of my backpack that I use for relic hunting and laid out all the coins on the tailgate, and started taking pictures and shooting video. And then I did got the video over to Scott, who's our amazing videographer. He does all of our video work, and we're real thankful to have him, help us with that. So got the video to him, and then he got the video ready, and we published it on YouTube. And, I went out on a number of different forums and Facebook groups that, hey, I found all these coins, and the story, and here's the video. And I said, we're going back next weekend. We're going to, dig out the entire area and sift it all out. And then, the preceding week, we had to get none of us had a sifting table that was ready to be used. So I had to get one of those built, and I had a bunch of stuff going on during the week, just family life and work and stuff. And it wasn't until Saturday, I think we went out there on Sunday, but Saturday night I was loading up the truck with all the tools and the new sifting table, and just making sure everything was, in place and ready to go first thing in the morning. And went and dumped the trash out of my backpack, and then for some reason, something in my head said, hey, reach your hand down into where the water bladder is on your backpack, where you stick the Camelback in there?
Yeah.
All week long, I had thought that I had like 103 non-wheat penny, copper coins out of this hoard. There was another 74, 75 coins in there that I just didn't even have any idea. My mind was so blown from the whole experience, and then spending all week, running around trying to get stuff done. And then I had all these coins to look at and play with that I didn't even realize that those coins were there until like Saturday night.
Well, when you've got a hoard, what's another 75 coins? They can slip through.
That's what Mike. Yeah, that's what Mike told me. Mike said, you're probably the only guy that can ever say, I forgot about a huge pile of old coins in my backpack when I went relic hunting.
I have never, and guys, it is VA History Detectors on YouTube. They've got 3 videos that I have seen that are associated with this. There's the wheat penny hoard that is found first, and then all the large cents, the 2 centers, the flying eagles, and there are a couple of Canadian large cents in that group as well. But in total, I believe my count that I've got is 1,256 coins altogether. Is that correct?
Well, I think that originally we had told you 1,070 wheat pennies, so your count is probably off by 72 wheat pennies, but that's okay.
Okay.
It's more in the lines of, what did I come up with here? 1,178 coins.
Okay. How many American U.S. large cents were in there?
There were 90 large cents in there.
Goodness gracious. Do you know I've been hunting for 44 years, and I found my first large cent 3 years ago, and I've only found 3.
You're kidding.
I've only found 3 in my life, and here you are, you dirty dog, you find 90 in one day. And I haven't found a 2 center yet. That's still on my bucket list. That's my white whale.
Oh, wow.
And how many of those did you find in that hole?
Well, I only had 1 2 center in my collection before the Hoard find, but there was 57 of them in there.
Goodness gracious, 57 of them. And I've only got one flying eagle, and you found what? 23 flying eagles?
28.
28 flying eagles. And you did pick up a few Indianhead pennies, didn't you?
Yeah, there was 3 Indianheads that were mixed in with the wheat pennies. None of them were too special. I mean, but they were in really good shape. The thing about all these coins is that, for some reason, maybe it's just they're not farm field coins or whatever, but they all came out in really good condition. There's very little corrosion on them. But there was 3 Indianheads, like 1904, 1897, something like that. Nothing too spectacular. No P dates or anything like that. And then there was 1 Canadian penny in there as well.
Yeah. What amazing find. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And when you watch the video, you will see it. But you did find 1 really old coin, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was wondering if you're going to ask about that.
Yeah.
That was really exciting. It's the oldest coin I've ever found. This is a coin that, I know the area that this house is in, and the area we're hunting really well. And I mean, there was no European occupation even for 20 years before this coin was minted, or 20 years, after this coin was minted in this area. So it's an extremely old coin to find in this area. It is a King James II Hibernia halfpenny. And it dates 1685 to 1688. There's no date on the front of it, but there is a nice bust with nice relief on it. And it is just a really cool killer coin. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, one of my goals is to try and find the absolute oldest relics that are in the areas that I hunt. And I think I'm getting really close with this one. So I have no idea why it was mixed in the same hole as all these large cents, 2 cents. I don't know if it was rolled up together with them or if perhaps it was dropped in the same area by an earlier inhabitant of the site. I just don't know. I think it will forever remain a mystery.
Yeah.
But it is.
And that's the way it is. We find things, and you try to make some kind of rhyme or reason out of it. It could have been with them. It could have been there, and you're just digging up a lot of territory there. What was the over-eyes diameter of this hole that had all of the old coins in it?
Well, I think ultimately, I don't think that it was more than 1 or 2 foot wide, because a lot of these coins, when they came out, they still had some sort of paper around the edges. So I could tell, after looking at them and after looking at the paper under magnification, that whoever buried these coins had rolled them all together by type, and then wrapped them in some type of paper, and it seemed like the paper would throw off a little bit of a sheen or a little gloss. So I don't know if they were all buried, and maybe they were part of a coin collection and buried in 1935 together along with the wheats, a few feet away, or if this was just an area that maybe that the family would hide valuables, over time, one generation to another. Like you just said, there's questions that we can come up with theories to try and answer, but I don't think we'll ever really know the full story. No. But they were definitely wrapped in paper. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always stories. Hey, guys, let's open the phone lines now. We're past our syndication point. In fact, we're at the top of the hour. This show has flown by. I knew it would. But the number is 270-495-0315. If somebody will, put that in chat for me, because I'm trying to watch 4 screens here at one time. And if you've got a question or you want to call in and talk to any of these guys, I want to jump back to the other guys for just a minute, Trevor, because I want to get their reaction whenever they first heard of this. And Miles, what did you think whenever you were made aware of what Trevor had gotten into here?
Oh, man. So I was sitting here. It was a nice day. I was kind of, sitting in my room just watching Netflix, and I kind of wanted to go out relic hunting, but I just kind of didn't feel like door knocking that day. And so I was cleaning, and I was cleaning my room and also cleaning some relics. And then I hear my phone go, just going off, and I opened the group chat, and Trevor's just like, there's coins coming out. There's coins everywhere. I'm like, what? There's coins everywhere. And so, and this is the wheat penny hoard. This was the first day.
Yeah.
So, I kind of waited for a second for him to, post a video or a picture. But I knew it had to be something.
Yeah.
Because that site had been pretty good to us. Got some great flat buttons there. It's an old spot. And lo and behold, there was over 1,000 coins at that spot.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we do have a caller on, Jordan Rice. What's going on tonight, Jordan?
No, not much, Mr. Lloyd. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Have you got a question for these guys?
I do. I've got the XP discs, and I've had it for about 2 years. I'm still learning it. Y'all are both running XPs, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Scott and I both have the XP.
Let me ask you a question, because I've got some programs on there. Do y'all ever find that thing, mine sometimes will give me a weird signal when I go over coins? I'm just curious of what y'all got on that, what you got on that Hoard and stuff. Because I'm hunting a site right now. It's a big Civil War site. I found a belt buckle on it a couple weeks ago. So, and I pulled some old coins out of there. And I think Mr. Tim did, though. He found an 1821 cap bus. I'm just curious of what y'all are bringing up on that.
Like a weird signal, like not solid signal, or just kind of like a ghost signal or a faint signal.
Well, it'll give me a good solid signal, and then it's almost like a ghost signal. And then when I put it back in, if I put the dirt back in the hole, I can pick it back up again. It's weird what it does. Now this full hot. The farmer's planting soybeans and corn and stuff in it.
Yeah, it disappears on you.
Sometimes it depends if there's something else in the hole with it or around it, or if the coin's on edge, or if it's at your fringe depth. The thing about the XP is it'll give you a good solid tone, but if it's too deep past the fringe depth, then it's not going to give you much of a readout.
Right.
So best thing to do is dig it.
Right. Well, yeah, and and I pulled square nails out and then pulled bullets out. You know what I mean? So I mean, I love the machine. It's awesome. And I actually found I guess it's a tractor wheel or something. It was about 2.5, 3 foot deep.
Well, you're getting some depth out of it then, no doubt about it. Hey, Jordan, they're going to put these XP Deus programs on the Relics Radio Facebook group site, and when they get time, and you'll be able to look at that and see those programs then and there. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
First time caller too.
Okay. Appreciate it, buddy.
We
all right.
We need to get together. Bye.
Yep. Y'all just holler at me. Appreciate the call. And somebody asked a question in the chat that was relayed to me. Trevor, what was the oldest large cent in that group?
Yeah, okay. So there was 3 Drake busts inside of the 90 large cents, and 2 of them didn't have a date. One has a very good date on it, 1798. So as far as I know, that's the oldest. Yeah, I don't know what the other 2 are, but I was real happy to get all 3 of those out of there.
You know, that 1798, that was when, of course, there were people here in my county prior to that, but that's when a large group moved in. And Earl from Virginia gave me a 1798 large cent. That is one coin that I really want to find because it kind of relates to my area and everything. But I want to go back over to Scott real quick. Hey, Scott, what did you think whenever you were made aware that he found the wheats and then went back and found all these old coins?
Oh boy, yes sir. I was a little sorry to bring him into the group. I wanted to disown him at that point. I got to be honest. I was like, well, he had invited us out, to go, and it's like I couldn't go that day, and I can't blame him, but I sure like to. But yeah, he's like, oh, these are just coming out by the handful, guys, and so forth, and sending me text messages. I was like, dude, I don't even want to talk to you right now. I just want to disown him right on the spot. We have a love-hate relationship. We battle through things, and we've got a couple other stories where we've sort of gone against each other throughout. Being a group and a team, and you're happy to have other people find things, but I was like, boy, you're kidding me,
And we lost Miles there for just a minute, but I've got you added back in there, Miles. Now, I don't.
Yeah, all good here.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh yeah, I didn't want him to hear that part. Didn't want him to hear that part of the conversation where I dug the sword belt plate in his lane where he was headed. I had to bring that up. That had to come up in this show. Had to put it in there.
Yeah, that's what Tennessee Jeff did to me when we were hunting the famous construction site. He had already found 2 box plates, and then they were moving the dirt and moving it into a dump truck, and then they would just pile it up, and then a dozer would come push it up into a big old pile. And I was going up the right side and Jeff going up the left side, and 2 or 3 pushes there with the dozer, and I had found probably 5 or 6 bullets to his 1, and buttons too. I was finding everything, and I felt bad about it, and I told him, I said, when they push it this time, you take the right side and let me take the left. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm finding more than you are. And he said, well, that's okay. And I said, no, I'd feel better if you'd take the right side. First signal that he found was a box plate. I'm about ready to kill him.
Yeah, we got that kind of camaraderie going between us, It's kind of off from the Hoard conversation, but yeah. It happens back and forth between us all, so yeah. Everybody does
that. If I may ask, because I cut out there for a minute.
Yeah.
Did he tell the whole story, or would it be okay for me to tell?
Oh no,
my little fairy tale.
Go ahead. You don't
need to chime in.
Go ahead.
All right, so So Scott, Trevor, and I were hunting the site. What was it, Scott? It was early summer, maybe, last year?
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
Okay. Deep in the forest, middle of nowhere, nice permission. I was hunting with the Ace 400 at the time. And, it's a good machine. I'm not going to knock it. But Garrett machines do suffer. And the iron patches, iron fields, whatever you want to call it, in these old home sites, which are just littered with iron. So, I got away, I walked down this hill, and I see this big hole in the ground. And I'm like, okay, this looks nice. I don't see any big holes. So the first thing I do is I go get the guys. And they come down. We're all swinging. And I'm like, okay, I was where I was. I've got the hole to my right. It's a big hole. It's maybe about, 10 to 15 feet wide all around. It's a big circle.
Big old cellar hole. Yep, big old cellar hole.
That's what I thought. So I was standing where I was, and I see this big old tree. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to head for that tree. And, I was looking at the grass. I didn't even see Scott. Kind of, he was merging. He was switching lanes. He was merging onto the interstate, and he picked the right exit because I'm in for the tree, and the next thing I hear is, okay, let me dig this can real quick. So, okay. So I'm like, all right, he's got a little spot he's in. Let me go ahead and get away from him. I'll go over here and dig. No, not even 3 seconds after I moved past him, he's like, can you please take the camera? I'm like, what? He's like, I know what it is. I'm like, what do you mean you know what it is? What did you dig up? Lo and behold, there's a sawbelt plate right in between me and that tree.
Yeah, he'll never forgive me for that. Yeah, that's one of those, you got your guys together in a group, and they'll never forgive you for those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I gave them what for that. But it gets even better. After, not even 5 minutes after that, gets this good signal. He calls me over to record him. He's got a flat button in the hole, a big old button. As soon as I see it, that's not a button. So that's a big copper. And it ends up being, I think it was either 3 or 4 large cents in the hole together, and a half real.
Yeah, 3 large cents and a half real. You got it.
No, that's a good spiel right there.
In a great spill.
Yeah.
Yeah. He hates me still. It's been
I don't hate you. I don't hate you. Because we were hunting one of my spots a few months after that. We happened to have amazing luck. I had a permission in a county close to me where the farmer seems to, when he pulls up his crops, he plants right behind them. So you got maybe 2 days to hunt. That's it. When he plants, it's pretty much it. He doesn't want you messing with it. But we got lucky. I had permission to hunt during this short period, and it also happened to be a nice day.
Jump on
during July.
Let's hear it.
Mm-hmm. During July. Keep in mind, this is July in Virginia. It was, 73 degrees that day. It was perfect out. It wasn't even humid. It wasn't hot. So I got a call from the farmer and rushed over there. And when I say we rushed over there. We were very excited. And so, we're hunting. We were just finding tons of bullets, brass, hardware. This was a nice Civil War site. It's a field that has not been pounded to death. So there's still good stuff in there, not just, deep, small things. And
all right,
but I probably went about a half hour without a signal. And, I walk over to Scott just to see what he found. I'm like, haven't really been finding a whole lot. And Scott's like, well, why don't you go hunt that line? So I was pretty much, if you think about like you're mowing a lawn, you go back and forth, either vertical or horizontal. We were working a long horizontal stretch in this big field. And he just says, all right, hunt my next line. And I get this signal, and it sounds like a bullet, not a deep bullet, shallow enough. And I'm like, hey, Scott, I said, come over here, turn the camera on, let me get this, bullet up on live day on camera. And if you actually watch it in the video on our YouTube channel, you can actually see the item come up in my hand. And I'm like, oh, that was heavy. Basically what happened was I was hearing lead, but it was not a bullet. It was the lead back to a U.S. Civil War belt buckle. And then it happened in my first. And so I'm like, oh, that was heavy. Big old piece of brass with all that lead still in the back. It was heavy. It was all broken up. All that was left of it was it was the U.S. All the rest of it was corroded away. But somehow, over 154 years and multiple plows, it still had the two hooks on the back and the keeper.
Wow, that's
I was about to go there.
Yeah, that
was my next lane, and then I gave it to you, and then there you go. And I'll never forgive you.
Let's jump back over to Mike. Mike, are you still able to be in tonight?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay. What was your reaction whenever you heard all of these hoards being dug up?
So, just like the other guy said, Trevor blew up the Facebook Messenger with pictures, and I think he said something to the tune of, guys, you're not going to believe this. And I think my response was, I don't believe you. It was just unbelievable. He had, pictures of coins in his hands and pictures of pile of coins next to the hole, and, just steady stream of pictures of those coins just coming out. And it's unreal, unbelievable, man. Those things just don't happen. Like you said earlier, we've been hunting for so long, and to find one large cent, or that's great. I might find two or three in a whole year or a digging season, but a hoard of all these coins just coming out, and it's unbelievable, and it's just unreal, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it, because these guys, this is just such a stellar group of guys, and like they said, we just have such a super camaraderie, to the point where I don't want to steal a thunder on this one, but when we went back for the third mission, the sifted mission, where we really wanted to buckle down and get it all done, Trevor was nice enough to say, hey man, thank you guys for helping us out. Here, I want to give you guys some coins. So he gave us all, a big penny and a 2-cent piece and a flying eagle each. And so we took them home, and the next day, I think Scott started up the momentum on this one, but we all decided that in the hopes of, in the spirit of keeping the horde together, we gave them all back to Trevor, just to keep everything the same. So, and then Trevor was on a mission that next day, driving hours around town, going to pick them all up again.
Boy, he was out here at 10 o'clock at night picking up mine. I was like, these all need to stay together. And he was like, well, yeah. And he was out here, and then went to Mike's house and Miles' house.
And that's just,
crazy.
That's the kind of camaraderie we have, and the kind of caliber of the guys that in this group. It doesn't matter about the finds, it doesn't matter about the relics. We're in it for the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the partnership. So,
and I
couldn't ask for a better group.
Yeah, that's where it's all at. I tell you, at the end of the day, you got just over 1,000 coins. but the biggest find that you got is each other, and that's just the way it is, and that's what makes it so special. But it does make this hobby so special because you do not know the next signal that you pull out of the ground what it's going to be. I mean, it can literally change your day, change your life, whatever that you find. And then, Mike, all of you guys went back with a sifter and everything, and I know you had high hopes of really finding a lot of stuff that day, but it really didn't pan out for you, did it?
No, sir. We ended up finding, even more history out of the hole, but in terms of the large cents and the 2 cents, Trevor did a really good job of cleaning it up on the first couple missions, but if you guys check out that video, we added even more history to it. Like I said, we had this last group of soil that we were just going to fill the hole back into, left in our wheelbarrow, and we just decided, hey, we went ahead and dug it. Let's go ahead and sift it out, and we found a little overall button in that one group of soil, and then Scott pulled out a arrowhead, so a point.
Yeah, I
so
saw
that. He
that.
added even more.
Yeah.
And then what else came out of there, guys? I know we found that cobalt blue ink bottle or milk and magnesia bottle.
Yeah, that's a jar.
I think there was another flying eagle in there.
Yeah, so what happened was when we were on site, they were calling out the wheat pennies and them all into a relic hunt pouch on the ground, and there was like 4 or 5 of them they called out. And then when I got home, I was going through and putting the finds in my display, and I set one wheat penny up on the display, and then I set another one, and I was like, hold on, that one's really thick compared to that one, and it turned out to be a flying eagle, and I looked at it, and the detail on it was just spectacular. You could see all the feathers, in the wings and everything, and as compared to the other 27 flying eagles that came out of the hole, I mean, no comparison. It's far and away the best quality and the best condition coin in that group. So we didn't find a lot that day, but we did get that coin. We did get a handful of other Wheaties. We got a cobalt medicine jar, like as mentioned, and then we got the point and the overall button. So really,
I'm glad we didn't build that group.
Say what?
And sorry, if I may add something, any relic hunter who's dug one of these, I'd be it either a flying eagle or one of the quote-unquote fatty Indianhead pennies. They are 88% copper and 12% nickel, and, they just don't hold up in the ground. I mean, even in this case where, whenever they were buried is still a mystery, but to have one out of the ground, still in good shape, regardless of when it was buried, made the day worth it for us.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Absolutely. And don't you think, Trevor, that these coins being stuck together helped cut down on the corrosion? That, and also they weren't fertilizing that spot either, because it's a house site and you've got all the chimney rock and all the brick and everything. What you're thinking on that?
So I think the coins came out in absolutely amazing condition. Very, very little corrosion. Most of the corrosion on the 2 cents is around the edges. The flying eagles didn't fare too well, as Miles mentioned. It's more of I guess it's just in their makeup, as he was mentioning. The large cents came out amazingly well. So you had these coins that were wrapped together in rolls and then buried underneath of a house. So you had, less moisture down there. You didn't, for a long time at least, you didn't have the, corrosive effects of dissimilar metals in the soil touching these coins. The coins just touching them, each other, and then them being made of the same type of metal. It just all worked together to ward off corrosion over time. I don't know how long they were buried down there, but they all came out in really, really good condition. So for the most part, I mean, there's a couple here and there that are pretty toasty, but all things considered, they came out really nicely.
And I want to mention again, go to VA History Detectors on YouTube. Watch these videos. I mean, your reaction, Trevor, is just priceless. Whenever you first come on, you say, "Excuse me, I know I'm shaking," but it's just, I mean, you can just see the impact that finding something like that had up on you. And by the way, I'm going to work with Trevor and with the group and plan on doing an article for American Digger magazine. I know that there's a backup on publishing. I don't know exactly when that will come out. Don't know when we will get it all together and get it out. But in the near future, be looking for that. And in the meantime, you can go and watch these videos yourself. I did the Great Silver Hoard with Wes Stringer and Jeff Ford and Chris Heimsoff, and I asked myself the question, and how do you go back to detecting after you found a hoard like that? Now, in their case, Jeff Ford and Wes Stringer came down to Middle Tennessee. And we met up so I could take some pictures for the magazine and so that we could sit and talk and everything, and I could get some background and everything. And we did go out hunting. And Wes Stringer is the one that really found the initial part of this great silver hoard. And I don't remember how many coins that they found, but it was a monstrous amount of silver that they pulled out of the ground. But then when he's down here hunting with us, we get onto a side and he finds a seated dime, and he is just beside himself. Me and Plugmaster Ford are hunting in one field, and Wes Stringer and Tennessee Jeff are hunting in another, and Wes calls Jeff Ford, and I can hear him over the phone. He's just screaming, I found a bucket list. And I said, well, you answered my question, but Trevor, how do you see yourself now going out and hunting just a regular hunt after finding these two amazing hoards of coins?
Well, I haven't been out since I found the hoard of the 1800s coins, and then we went back to do the sifting. I've just been doing a lot of stuff around my house, and it's not because I want to take a break or anything, but just getting stuff done the last few weekends. I've still got goals. I've still got places that I know about that I really want to get onto and see what's there, and really just roll things back to the areas, the very roots of European, occupation and areas that I want to hunt. I'd like to find a gold coin one day. I've just, there's so much that I haven't found yet that's out there that, I'm always looking for a new first. So as long as there's a first out there or something, cool, or I can get on a new place that's, super duper old, then, that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. And a lot of times, one of the most amazing things that you can find is some kind of personal item that, as far as monetary value, it has absolutely none, but it may have a name or something that identifies a person with a site, and those are always special. I mean, there's always something in this hobby to get you excited, and you guys have been great, and appreciate you being on the show. I tell you what, I'm just going to go around the horn here real quick and let each of you have just some parting thoughts. And Mike, I know you're in the hospital bed there, and you probably need to get away, brother. So I'm going to start with you and just let you say a little bit to start with.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having us. And like I said earlier, I couldn't ask for a better group of guys to be associated with. So I invite all you guys to go check out our YouTube channel, and we've got some big things coming up, and it's just unreal to be a part of anything like this, sharing our hobby with everybody. And I want to thank you, Loy, for the time and having us on the show. And on behalf of Virginia History Detectors, I would like to get your address when we're done with the show, and I'd like to send you back your great granddaddy's plate.
Oh man, you're bringing tears to my eyes, son. And
that is for you. If somebody found something with my ancestors' initials on it, I would like, I'd like to think that they'd do the same thing. So this William Milam plate, that's yours, my friend. So shoot me a message when we get done here, and it'll be packaged up and shipped when I get back out of the hospital.
Well, just hang on the line. I'll talk to you guys a little bit before we close the show, but that is too kind. And like I say, there's no way that we can be 100% that was my great-great-grandfather's. But in all likelihood and in all probability, it probably was because, I've done the research and everything, and he was the only William Milam that was in that group there. So, yeah.
And they definitely traveled through my neck of the woods with that regiment. So,
yep.
The odds are stacking up in our favor, bud.
Yeah. And, but now, I tell you, I have always treasured the friendship that you and I have. And, you didn't have to do that, but it is well received on my part. And I'll have a special place in my display case and pass that on to my kids and my grandkids. And as most of you know, I'm a great-granddaddy now, so may give that to my great-grandson, pass it along.
And that's what it's about, passing it on to the next generations and sharing it with them. And this plate will look a lot better in your collection than it will mine.
Yeah, and I'll tell everybody. I'll tell the boys especially. The girls, they get as excited over things that I get excited over. I'm gonna say that right there came from Virginia, from Digging with the Wolf, and I certainly do appreciate it, Mac. Scott, what have you got to say in closing?
Boy, I don't know that I can beat that. But I appreciate you having us on here. I don't think I can even come close to that conversation. So I appreciate you having us on, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Well, you've been a dear friend too. We go way back.
Yes, sir.
We do. Yeah, and you're as much a friend as you and Mike. We all got tied up a long time ago, and but it's great having you on the show and for being my.
We sure do appreciate it.
Being my liaison and contact with this amazing group and this amazing story. And so stay on the line, and Miles, I'll let you have the floor.
To be honest, buddy, I'm also going to concur with Scott. I cannot top what Mike said, but what I got to say is, what Mike found and what he's saying is, it's part of why we do this. The opportunity to reunite a person with their past, that's kind of why we do this. Some guys dig up rings, but you can't guess on digging up a plate that belonged to someone that's their ancestor.
Yeah.
It's got to be the most special thing I've ever heard of.
It is with me. Yeah, it is with me too.
That is why we do this.
Yeah,
it's not just digging up history. Sometimes you have the opportunity to really connect someone with their past, something that their ancestor held with their right hands.
Yeah,
that's really special to me.
It is.
And on top of that, I'm very happy to have been a part of the show. Thank you so much for having us out. I loved it.
Well, we loved having you on. Go out there and find you a Hoard, and you'll be the spotlight of the next show. I guarantee you. We will have you on.
Do the best I can.
And I'll get the name of being the Hoard writer of everything. But Trevor, we'll close out with you tonight.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, thanks so much for the opportunity to be on the show. Use this platform as a way to get our story of the Hoards out there. And I'm just really grateful that, I was able to have this experience. I'm really grateful that, I get to share it with everyone that would like to have a similar experience one day. And, I'm really grateful for the group of guys that we hunt with. Everyone's got their own kind of special talents, and everybody, contributes to the group equally. And, we're lucky we've got Scott to do all the awesome video work. He's great at that. And that's pretty much it. I just want to echo all the sentiments that all the guys said before. And thanks again for having us on.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And, we've got people in Europe and Australia and Asia and all over the world that listen to our show. So your story has gotten out and will continue to do so. And I hope it translates into more views for your channel. Hope that your YouTube channel grows as a result of you guys being on the show. And I can't thank you enough for letting us have the exclusive on this Hoard. I know that every show would have liked to have had this story and had you guys on, but you allowed Relics Radio to do that, and we certainly do appreciate it. So you guys hang on the line, and I'll close the show out and be right back with you in just a moment. And I want to thank everybody who has come into the show tonight, listening live, all of the syndicated listeners, all of the archive listeners that will listen to the show, no matter where you're at in the world. And if you like shows like this, be sure and check out Beyond Sight and Sound with Josh Kimball every Sunday night and Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. All Metal Mode with Mike Hare and Gypsy Jules is on every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. American Diggers Relic Roundup with Butch Holcomb, Jeff Lupert, and myself. We're on Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, and we'll have Scott Duncan, an amazing Spanish-American War relic that he found, an amazing story that he did for the magazine. Read the article, listen to the show that's coming Monday night. And then Hardcore Metal Detecting has a show. It's with Derek Asklar and Craig Talley. They're on every Thursday night and Saturday night at 8 o'clock. XP Team USA has a show every other Friday night. That's with Dave Kimball and Grant Hansen, and they're on every other Friday night at 8 o'clock. We'll be back here next week, next Thursday night. The full crew will be back. And I'll tell you something, guys, I can't tell you now all about it, but we have an amazing lineup and a special series that we're going to run in the month of June. You won't want to miss it. So come back here next Thursday night to Relics Radio right here on Spreaker. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker, or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, or iHeartRadio, iTunes, or many other podcast outlets. Relics Radio is also syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure that you follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Diggin' with 7 or Tennessee Jeff. Or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook group page or Adventures in History on Facebook. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to relicsradio@outlook.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you'll join us next Thursday night. And until then, get out there and dig some history.
Yeah.